So you want to hire some extra help for your business. You want to hire a VA. How exactly do you do that? In this video, I'm going to walk you through a 7-step process for hiring VAs. Before we get into step number 1 though, let me explain where exactly should you be hiring from, right? Well, there's 3 websites I've used with pretty good success. Number 1 is Upwork, which of course most of you will know. Upwork is really easy to use. It has a ton of VAs and freelance and everything, so it's very easy to hire someone, and it's just a good site overall if you can suck up the fees. Beyond that, there's onlinejobs.ph. If you want to hire someone from the Philippines, I've had a lot, even more success hiring people from the Philippines via onlinejobs.ph than I have via Upwork. So if I'm going to hire someone full-time or part-time, I really like Online Jobs. It's a very good site. You have to pay for it, but again, you can get some really good people and a lot of people. My last job there got 800 applicants. 800 applicants, just a lot. I'll explain how to filter it down as we get into the video. And the third site that I like is jobrack.eu. If you want to hire someone from Eastern European countries, they have a lot of people and you can hire some really talented, good people from there. So that is the sites that I'm posting the jobs on. Again, it's more about country specific. I'm hiring Eastern Europeans, which is like developers or writers, then jobrack.eu. If I'm hiring someone from the Philippines, which is kind of a whole mix of things, especially if English is important, and then onlinejobs.ph, and to everything else, Upwork, especially if it's not a full-time position. If it's just like a contractor working a few hours a week or part-time, something like that, then Upwork is really good for that and much easier. Now getting into step number 1, let's start nice and simple, which is post an ad. I mean, thinking about hiring someone isn't going to do anything for you, so you need to post an ad. And people ask me, how exactly do you do that? Well, you just write it up an ad and just explain the job. You have to do anything fancy here. It is nice and simple. Just post a description of the job. Very simple. List a few tasks, example tasks that you have to complete. It's really easy. Here's an example one that I posted a while ago. Now, one bonus tip for you, if you're expecting a lot of applicants, I don't always do this, but if you're expecting a lot of applicants, include some form of test to weed out people that don't care and don't read the description. Meaning that if you post an ad and 800 people are going to reply to this, which can definitely happen on Online Jobs and JobRack and all these sites, then make sure you have some sort of filter to quickly eliminate people, so you have to manually go through every single one of them. Now, the easiest one that most people do is ask people to include a word. Hey, can you include this word or phrase when you apply to show that you actually read the job description, right? A nice, easy filter to quickly eliminate people that didn't do it. Now, that is okay, and as a starting point, it's really easy because you can then filter for it. You can also ask people to apply with a certain subject line. You can filter out anyone that doesn't apply with that subject line. Or you can ask people to do something a little bit more fun, which is a bit more manual. But you can ask them, hey, if you're hiring a writer, ask them to spot the spelling or grammar errors within your article, in your job description. Now, the really fun thing with this is I've actually had people point out errors that were accidental and not intended to be in there, which is just points out their ability much better. But it's an interesting sort of test to kind of figure out their ability. So do something to figure out their ability. And here's a bonus tip. For you. Use canned responses and filters inside of Gmail to automate this entire process. Now, a canned response is where you basically write up an email and then you save this as a canned response. And what this allows you to do is, rather than have to manually write this email every time or copy it and paste it, you just click into the canned responses and select the template that you've already written. Makes it much easier. Now, when you combine this with a filter, and a filter basically just allows you to automate actions with an email. So if you receive an email with a certain subject line, then automatically filter it, or you can actually do other things as well. So you can like archive it for that, or you can send them a canned response. So if someone emails you with a certain subject line, or someone emails you containing a certain specific word or phrase, then you can automatically reply to their email. So what I like to do is I like to have a certain phrase or word or subject line, something like that, to filter them, and then everyone that passes this filter will automatically get an email that tells them to go to the next step, which I'll explain in a moment. And if they don't pass the filter, then they don't get the next step and they'd have no idea what's going on next, because it's not our problem. They didn't put any effort into it, so we don't need to put any effort into it also. Now, moving on to step number 2, and that is to send them some sort of questionnaire form to figure out a little bit more information about them. So I like to use Google Forms here because it's easy and it's free and it's easy to analyze. You can just put all this information into a spreadsheet. Now, first you're just gonna ask them a few basic questions. Hey, what's your name? What's your email to contact you? What's your Skype? Maybe you wanna contact them with Skype or something like that. Just basic questions to actually be able to hire them, right? And then beyond that, you want to ask them about their availability, how many hours they have available to work, just double check that it aligns, because sometimes you'll post a full-time job and then they'll put their availability as 20 hours a week. It's like, well, did you even read this thing? I mean, come on, right? So check that. You can also check basic things sometimes. Maybe you want to check that they can write fast, right? So ask them their words per minute score. If it's like 20, then don't hire that person because they'll never get anything done. You're probably looking at, I'd say at least 40, maybe 50 plus. That's really, really low, but you know, maybe on the lower end of that, just to double check. You can also ask them like the disc score if you want to, but it's not really ideal. It's not a perfect way of analyzing someone, but you can certainly give a little bit of information. But really what I like to ask is questions that determine their experience level. You know, if I'm hiring a video editor, hey, what software do you use for editing videos? Right, this is a very, very easy one. If they reply saying that they use Camtasia, then they're not getting hired because that's just a beginner level software. Whereas if they reply saying they use Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere or whatever, then okay, maybe this person knows what they're talking about, right? Now, is that perfect? Does saying that they use Final Cut Pro mean that they're actually a good video editor? Not on any level, but it just gives an indicator, right? You can also ask, obviously, as a video editor or a graphic designer or something visual, or even a writer, hey, can you include some samples of videos you've edited or articles you've written, right? You can check the samples, you can check their portfolio. That absolutely helps filter people out. So you can ask as many of these questions as you like. I don't really want to ask too many. I just want to ask a small number just to get an idea of who I can filter out and who is actually a good potential applicant. Beyond that, I do like to ask a long form question if English is going to be important. Now, usually it's good to include one anyway because it gives you an idea of kind of the person you're talking with. If you have a long form answer, you can really learn a little bit more about how they think and their personality. It's not perfect because it's just written, but it's something that again helps you filter out who is a potential fit. But if it's a writing position that I'm looking for, a writing or good English is important, even if it's just editing content or optimizing SEO content, then I want to make sure that they can actually understand English well, actually write English well. So I just ask them a long form question. Now it could be absolutely anything, I don't really care at this point, but I want to see how well they can write a few paragraphs just so I can check their English is good. If I ask them to explain something in detail and they just give me one sentence, then I'm not going to hire them. And if I ask them to explain in detail and they do that, but their English is terrible, then again, I can quickly filter out everyone with really bad spelling and grammar, and it saves me some effort. Again, this is all about being able to filter people out that aren't a good fit, because what's going to happen is you're going to get hundreds of applicants and you only really want to interview less than 10 at most. So here's what's happened so far, okay? You posted the job ad, people have applied, you've automatically filtered out people that passed the initial job description test and automatically sent them this Google form, an email containing a link to the Google form. They've completed this now, and then you have a list of maybe 50, maybe 100, whatever, maybe a few hundred people that have filled in this Google form. What I like to do next is put this into a Google Sheet, and I can see every single answer for every single person in this sheet. And from there, I want to filter out the people that aren't a good fit. So again, we kind of mentioned this already as we're going through the questions, but just filter out who isn't a good fit for this job. Do they have really bad English, if that matters? Do you have a really, really slow typing speed? Is their availability not a match for what you're actually looking for, right? Just ask them questions and then filter based on these to get a smaller number of people. And sometimes what I may even do is I might just ask them to do something for me, an actual mini task, like a very, very small one. I had a graphic designer before and just asked them, hey, can you design this real quick image for me, right? I just include that in the Google form because it's nice, quick, takes them less than 20 minutes and just allows me to quickly compare all of them and just pick out the favorites. Ask them some questions essentially and filter them out. Now going to the next step, which is number 4, what I'll do is either I'll invite them for a test or invite them to an interview. It really depends on the job that I'm promoting. In many cases though, I like to do some form of test first, which for example, if I'm hiring a video editor, then I ask them, hey, can you edit one video for me? And I'm not going to use this video, it's never going to use. It's usually a video I've already edited, it's already been used before, right? I'm going to ask them, can you edit a video for me? If I'm hiring a graphics designer, can you design one image for me? If I'm hiring a writer, can you write one article for me, right? Now, dependent on your use case, sometimes I pay these people for this. Sometimes I pay people because I'm actually going to use this. But you don't necessarily need to do this, it's up to you. But identify 4 to 5 people at least and have them complete a test. That will be editing a video, writing an article, or just doing something, even if it's for SEO, right? Have them go and try and edit an article and include words for surfer or whatever it is, right? Just have someone do a test. Again, 4 to 5 people gives you enough to compare, which is the next step, number 5, which is compare the test results. If you're really good at what you do, then you can just look at it and you can say, okay, this is a good video, this is a good image, this is a good well-written article. If you're not so good at what you do and you're not a good writer yourself, then just compare them and just read them and see which article reads better, right? It's not that complicated, just decide who did the best job of the test. And then from there, you have maybe 1 to 3 people that you actually like. And what I like to do is some form of basic interview, or you can just skip this in many cases and just go straight into a 2-week paid trial. So at this point, we're at step number 6 here. And again, invite them to a 2-week paid trial. As in, pay them for the time, pay them afterwards, so not before, pay them afterwards, have them work for you for 2 weeks. It's not only just completing a task which you're already testing for, you know they can do that, it's also how fast they work, how well they communicate, and other things like this, other factors, right? So invite them for a 2-week paid trial, try them out, pay them for their time, and figure out if they're a good fit for your business. And in many cases, you're gonna have like Houdinis and stuff that you hire them, and then 2 days later they disappear because for whatever reason they don't like working with you or whatever. And rather than bring it up, a lot of people like this really, and because it's virtual, they'll just block you, they'll just disappear, they'll just never respond to a message or email ever again. And this is a real thing that's happened to me several times and many other people. It happens, okay? But it doesn't really matter. So just try them out and see if they can do it for about 2 weeks. And if they can, great. Step 7, hire them, right? It's good, you like them, you can work together, it's easy to communicate, great. Hire them, you're done, you're good to go. And that's really all there is to it. It's very, very simple. Now I have some additional tips for you from doing this for quite a long time. Obviously, again, I mentioned people will disappear. It happens. It's the nature of working remotely with virtual people you never met before. It just happens, people disappear. Suck it up, move on to the next person. Besides that, be quick to fire people. If someone doesn't work out, just fire them. I've had people that they did the 2-week trial, I didn't like them, they didn't do a good job, they were kind of lazy or whatever, I just fired them there and then, okay? After the 2-week trial, hey, I don't think this is a good fit. Here's your pay for the 2 weeks, but we're not gonna continue after this, right? Just tell them it doesn't matter, and just save yourself some headache going down the line, because it's a much bigger headache to keep someone on that isn't good than it is just to get rid of them. It's much better just to get rid of them. Other things you'll definitely find is that in that 2 weeks, it's a trial. So guess what? People work harder in a trial. They're not gonna keep that same momentum up, right? So it's gonna drop off. This is normal. It doesn't matter that you hired someone from the Philippines or wherever, right? It's just going to happen. It's gonna be the exact same in the UK or wherever else. If you hire someone and say, hey, here's a 2-week trial to see how well you can do, they're gonna work better in those 2 weeks than they're gonna work ever again, right? It's just normal. Expect that. I don't know why people expect that they're gonna be consistently at this level. Beyond that also, if your work is repetitive and your work is boring and it's doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, then expect your VAs, expect your team members essentially to get bored. Expect them to get slower because it's boring and it's difficult to do repetitive, boring tasks. So expect that out of them and try and integrate something. Maybe give them a little bit of different task. Maybe mix things up a little bit. Just make it a little bit more interesting than doing the same thing over and over again. And my final tip is to hire skilled people. One of the mistakes I made when I got into this is I wanted to hire the cheapest possible person and I was willing to train them up. So it's okay if you've never done cold emailing before, I'll train you how to do it. And it worked to a degree, but it was such a headache to train people, and it was such a headache when that person didn't work out. because I'd spend ages training this person and then they wouldn't be a good fit. Or I'd spend ages training this person and then a few months down the line we'd stop working together. The easier way to do this is just to hire someone that actually knows what they're doing, that's done it before. They don't have to be an expert, but they should have done it before, and it makes things a lot easier. So yeah, maybe you have to pay a little bit more. But if we're talking hiring people from the Philippines and India and Eastern Europe and stuff like that, it's no more than $10 an hour. Right? That is such a low amount of money. $10 an hour, you can hire someone trained. You can hire someone that knows SEO. I kid you not, you can hire people that know SEO, that can actually do SEO themselves for $10 an hour. Now the trick is to hiring the right people, and that's where your own knowledge comes into this, and that's where the process I just walked you through comes into this. Because if you don't know anything about it, then at least you can compare how good their video is versus the competitors, and at least you can watch it and see if it seems interesting and good to you. So anyway, that is all I wanted to share with this video. Look, follow this process. It works. It works really, really well. It filters people out. It's near on automated, so you can save a lot of time. And the overall thing is hire fast, get them through some filters, question them, run them through a test, and hire fast. Get them on a 2-week paid trial, and if they don't work out, then fire them just as quick, in fact, quicker. Fire people quick that don't work out. Save yourself some headaches, save yourself some time, save yourself some negativity, dealing with all that crap, and just fire them, and hopefully, you'll quickly find a good fit. Because if you fire someone and replace them, you're gonna find a good fit eventually. And a lot of this is kind of a numbers game and kind of learning how to look at someone and communicate with someone and figure out their traits and how they think and if they'd be a good fit for this position. It takes practice, you're gonna start really bad at it, and even when you get good at it, you're still probably gonna have a lot of issues and you're still gonna kind of suck at it because it's a difficult thing to do. Hiring people, managing people is a skill, two different skills in themselves, and they're very difficult to manage. But if you do this enough, you can hire some amazing people. I've had the luck of having some amazing people working for me, and some of them have gone on to build their own 6-figure businesses and stuff, which is really awesome to see also. Anyway, that is it for this video. If you like this type of content, please click the like button below so YouTube recommends this to more people. And besides that, I will see you in my next video.